I returned my rental car about 2 hours ago at Albuquerque airport to be on time, and took a lift to the Amtrak station. And I've planned plenty of time, so some time for sushi close to the station. But later a message came that the train will be about 1.5 hours late, so I took another coffee. And I think this is part of the Amtrak journey or Amtrak experience, so I have not expected that this would be on time. Welcome to Almost Senator, our route. This is now the Albuquerque Amtrak to LA part, and the Amtrak trip was definitely one of the highlights of my trip, and well, I can confirm that. So let's have a look on some footage from that trip. I like the station a lot, and I also found a nice little cafe just around the corner to kill the time until the delayed train arrived. Waiting at the station for the delayed train, I noticed that I was missing my most important travel item. Lucky me, the train was delayed enough to get it back from the sushi restaurant. This is a little tour through the roomette, which is the smallest room you can book on an Amtrak. And it is basically a room for two, with two seats facing each other. And the two seats, they can be folded down to make one bed, and the second bed is to be folded down from the roof, kind of. And it's supposed to be for two. This large building is a very popular filming location. So the guy from the Breaking Bad tour told us that this was used for Terminator and many other films which were shot in New Mexico. The train finally departed at 6 p.m. ish, and I made myself comfortable until I got my dinner slot, which was 7:15 from the train attendant, because well, it's going to be very busy for dinner, and everybody gets a separate time to get there. At dinner, I got seated to 3 others, and it was a very interesting conversation with these guys. And the steak is very popular and supposed to be very good on Amtrak, and so that was the reason why I got one as well. And that was really good, so I can confirm that that's a very good steak. This is coach seating, and I must admit it looks very spacious, so I think for a couple of hours it's fine, but for a multi-day trip I wouldn't go for that. And you can see at the very front there is the baggage car, and at the very front there are 3 engines, and the door at the front that was not very tight, so it smelled a little like diesel smoke in there. So I guess the first passenger car on the train is not so great. I'm not so much into sunrises and sunsets, but these from the train there in the desert, they were really breathtaking. So that were amazing views to the sunset and the sunrise in the next morning. At 7 in the morning, we had a short stop for some train maintenance and also to get out and get some fresh air. It was also a great chance to see the whole train. Here we can see one of these very long freight trains. And from my time back at Iowa State University, back then I had a view from my apartment to a freight train track. And back then I counted up to 140 cars with containers or with coal trains. And a couple of years after that, Bettina and I went to one of these coal mines where the coal came from in Wyoming. And they told us that these trains have as well 100 to 140 coal cars, and they fill one coal car with up to 100 tons of coal. So that means that they typically have between 10,000 and 14,000 tons of coal, or an equivalent of containers here in that case. And these trains typically run between 4 and 6 engines. So what I have seen in most cases were 3 engines in the front and 2 engines at the back. This is Victorville, and aircraft nerds will know that name because that's one of these spots where aircraft typically land the last time and are either stored or scrapped on that airport. This is the sightseer lounge where passengers can go and have a good view on both sides of the train. The last couple hours the train goes down a very long descent from the Cajun Pass to LA, and the Cajun Pass is at an altitude of about 1100 meters and LA more or less at sea level. And back in 1989 a freight train lost control and derailed. We just left San Bernardino a couple of minutes ago, so according to schedule it is about 1.5 hours more to go. And well, we yesterday departed about 2 hours late, so the train arrived 1:40 late. There was a planned maintenance stop in Albuquerque for 40 minutes, which turned out to be a little longer then. And overall it was a very nice ride so far. So again, 1.5 hours more to go. I guess it's going to be a bit more than 1.5 hours because as we are running late, we need to let other trains pass, and sometimes we get stuck behind some freight trains. But well, it is how it is, and this is part of the Amtrak experience, so don't expect these to be on time. I got a couple hours of sleep, not so much as I should, but I know when my body is moving, then I typically don't sleep that well. It does not depend on if I'm somewhere on a bus or in a car or plane or train. It is how it is, and well, quite tired today, but I will survive. Finally, I made it into Los Angeles, and we can see the beauty of LA River here, for example. And I arrived finally at the Union Station 3 hours late, and from there I took the metro to Santa Monica Pier. So my buddy I was visiting, he lives in the valley, and we agreed to meet at the later afternoon after he has finished work. And so I had a look how I should get to the valley. He lives in the San Fernando Valley, and I found an interesting bus which departs Santa Monica, the Topanga Canyon Beach bus, and goes over the mountain into the valley. And that was a very adventurous ride because well, the driver, she floored the bus and raced over the mountain like crazy. That was insane. When I arrived at the valley, then my buddy Farshid picked me up and gave me a tour through the valley, and gave me a tour also from his terrace. I arrived on Friday and met my friend Farshid on Friday afternoon, and he had some work to do on Saturday, so I had some time off where I had to do something on my own. and I used the chance to do some plane spotting at LAX airport, so the international airport in LA. I arrived at Terminal 1 with the bus and then made my way to the In-N-Out Burger. And I must admit that LAX area is kind of walkable, and I've even seen other guys walking there, which is kind of unique for airports in general. And on the way to the In-N-Out Burger, I could already spot the Austrian Airlines flight, which I was about to depart a week later. It was a 777-200, and a little later an Air France 777-300 departed. And these are kind of unique, the 777s, because they use the GE90 engine, which is the most powerful airplane or aircraft engine out there right now. Having had a meal at the In-N-Out Burger, I luckily saw a Korean Air A380, which surprisingly matched the colors with the Asteroid City billboard at the In-N-Out Burger. And a little later, a Lufthansa A340-300 arrived, which is kind of unique plane as well, because that's very rare, already a 4-engine jet. And it is popular that this one is very underpowered. It has rather small engines, and it is one of these planes which is typically not in fleets anymore, but Lufthansa still has to use it because the 777X delivery is delayed. Later that day, Farshid and I took a drive through the valley and later made our way to the Loft Factory for a stand-up comedy, and we also had some dinner together before. And he told me, I gotta film that shit.
Like, you gotta film that shit. It's 8:40 p.m. We got a straight shot to our destination, going to a Peruvian restaurant. Gonna have some amazingly delicious lomo saltado, and then we're gonna go to a freaking stand-up comedy show and laugh our asses off. Christoph is gonna drink some whiskey, and my humble self, I'm gonna have some amazingly delicious US water.
On Sunday, I departed from Burbank Airport, and Farshid and I had some breakfast together at the spot in Burbank, and they claimed themselves that they have the best omelets in Burbank or in LA as a whole. And let's have a look how they look like, and they were really delicious, so we enjoyed that. The Amtrak experience as a whole was a really good one. And it felt a bit like being in a movie, in a historic movie with the train rides, and it's a whole lot different compared to the overnight trains in Europe. Because the Amtrak experience comes with a, well, sometimes delayed, but the trains are going rather slow. And you get really good service on board, you get a dinner, all that kind of stuff. So the package as a whole is a lot different compared to these high efficient, very fast overnight trains in Europe. Because in Europe you get the sleeper cabin as well, But the dinner experience, all that kind of stuff, that's not the case, or at least was not the case when I took train rides, overnight train rides in Europe. So there is typically only a small bistro where you can get some snacks, but there is not the experience with engage with other clients and other train riders and all that kind of stuff. So that makes the Amtrak experience a whole different compared to the trains in Europe. Thank you for watching Almost Senator en route. If you enjoyed the video, please hit the like button and subscribe. Thank you and see you next time.